Um, do you all, while we're hopefully Brian is going to rejoin us, do the panelists want to go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that. And I'll start, and I don't know in what order we'll just go with what we can. All right. So hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for this special Science in Action with women in STEM. So I'm physics faculty at Skyline. I've been teaching here for about 5 years or so, and this is my first year full time, and I'm so happy to be here. So.
Bela, would you like to go next?
Oh, yes. Good afternoon, everyone. So delighted to be here. I'm Bela Singha, and so I have a background in experimental psychology, looking at some of the reward pathways involved in more particularly around addiction and sort of the neurobiology of reward, why we're happy and what are the biochemical basis for it. After my sort of training in there, I did do some clinical development, trying to really understand what might be some appropriate compounds that might help with that reward pathway, whether it's depression or anxiety or addiction. And then I moved into industry, where I've been for the last 20 some years, both in the commercial as well as in the medical affairs role. And on the side, I do a lot of mentoring and volunteering around women organizations and leadership, as well as mentoring local high school students. And I'm just so delighted and passionate to be here, and look forward to meeting everyone and hearing everyone's questions. So thank you.
Welcome, Bela. Elayne, would you like to go next? Elayne, would you like to go next?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Elaine Rodriguez. I'm the Director of Respiratory Care and Allied Health. I have been working in Skyline College since 2018. I started as a adjunct faculty. Then I was the faculty coordinator for the associate degree program. And also, I am a respiratory therapist. I'm a clinician with 27 years of experience. I have been working in the hospital industry since 1993. I'm very honored to be part of this panel.
Welcome. Maryam?
Hi, I'm Maryam Khan. So currently I'm an engineering faculty member over at Skyline College. Before that, I went to school and started at Skyline, transferred to San Francisco State, got my bachelor's in civil engineering, my master's in structural and earthquake engineering. And at Skyline, I've had some faculty experience of both engineering and physics. Right now, I'm just focusing on engineering, and also looking at increasing retention for younger women to pursue and persist engineering. And why I was motivated to participate in discussion, I want to share my experience. I believe that everyone has a different story, and it's always wonderful to just hear the different perspectives, even within a marginalized demographic.
Great. Thanks, Maryam. Safiyyah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sofia Forbes. I am a chemistry faculty. I've been teaching at Skyline now for, I think this is my 4th year or something, but I transitioned from the Midwest, which is where I got my PhD in Kansas State University. So I have a PhD in organic chemistry. And I think this is important to be part of this panel, because the data has shown that in terms of women in STEM, it still has not we have not bridged that gap. And so just trying to talk with everyone to share experiences, I think that's really important. And so just to help to motivate the next generation of women and men as well to actually pursue a degree in STEM. So I think this, just here to share my views and my experiences. So looking forward to the next 40 something minutes.
Thank you so much, Safiyyah. Welcome all and welcome participants. I think as Emilie already said that we are asking you to let us know what questions you would like us to ask the panelists, as well as vote on some of the questions that are already in the Slido link, and I think it's in the chat, so please take a look at it. And I forgot to introduce myself. I am Pia Walawalker. I am Outreach and Equity Librarian, and I'm excited about this just because I support women in all fields and of course in STEM, and this is one of the many events that the STEM Center and the library will be hosting collaboratively. So I'm excited to be here today. I'm looking at, I'm going to give you maybe a few seconds to kind of vote on questions so that I can start asking according to what the participants have chosen. One of the most voted questions is what advice would you give students who are interested in it's updating. What advice would you give students who are interested in entering a STEM field? And you all have talked about why you are in it, and also there aren't enough women in STEM. So what advice would you give students? So Safiyyah, can I start with you?
All right, so I think the advice that I would give is to find a mentor, find someone who will hold you underneath their wings and truly help you to develop your craft. It is not, I would say the road it's not easy, but it is doable when you have the right support system around you. So find someone who knows who you are and who's willing to actually help support you through that process.
Yeah, and maybe the other teachers, Emilie or Maryam.
I would encourage you to back up Safiyyah, to find a mentor for sure. I would say that if you are looking to pursue STEM, that you can find a mentor, either somebody in industry, but it would be more meaningful to find a student mentor, maybe a student that's a few steps ahead of you. You can kind of get a sneak peek of the pathway and kind of also see what trials and tribulations they face. And also they could potentially be an industry connection in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would add maybe is also to be okay with being different, because you may actually walk into a room and be completely different from everybody else who's there. And I think that's true for women, but also if, any minorities, and to not fear that that's a bad thing. It's actually, you're bringing something new and something different, and it's actually something good. And it's easy to try to fit in and to but then that means that you are actually not making your kind of differences be highlighted and actually contribute to whatever field that you will be going into, and I think that's actually a big positive, something that you're bringing in something new and different, and I think that's something to not be afraid of, even though it's sometimes it can be really, really scary. So
yeah. So the next two questions that I want to ask are kind of related to what both of you said. Like Maryam was talking about, and Safiyyah, where you were talking about resources and mentors, and then you're talking about accept who you are. So the two questions are related to that. I'm going to ask the first one, which is, what are some resources that can that one can follow? Like you're talking about student mentors and all, but what kind of groups or resources are there outside, but in the field? So it might be outside Skyline, but in the field. Maybe I'll start with Bela here.
Yeah,
She's
thank
very,
you. First of all, it's a great question, and I wish I would have asked before I entered the STEM. All of you, I just congratulate you. I think the resources that are available are plentiful. First, there's a local one out here that I'm pretty active in, which is called Women in Science. And so you can certainly join that, and it's tiered. The cost is tiered based on sort of economics and student rates and things like that. I think the other resources might be around being able to volunteer at different organizations that allow you to not only network and meet the right mentor, because one mentor that's great for you might not be for somebody else. So I think that's another resources. And I think just, understanding that there's a navigation, in this field. And as you look on sort of online resources, your faculty and other people, personally, I would say don't be afraid to even look in something like LinkedIn, and you see somebody that you admire on their profile, feel free to ping them and say, do you have time for a 20-minute conversation? I'm pursuing this. And you'd be surprised how people really appreciate and welcome to see those opportunities. I'll tell you, STEM is sort of one of these recession-proof ideas, and I'm just so excited that all of you are interested. Thank you.
Ellen, did you want to say something? Yeah.
I will say that the first step is to meet with the counselor. The counselor will connect you with the correct network. And then know somebody who trusts in you and support you is the key to succeed. So I think that's the first step. Meet with your counselor. They know all the resources and they have all the contact to connect you with the correct person and the correct pathway. Also, I think that the faculty, the instructors are very, very important. If you made a connection with your instructor and they see that you have potential for STEM, that would be great. So that will be your first mentor.
Okay.
May I please add to this? So I would recommend to kind of piggyback on Bela, looking at different groups to join. There are various chapters that will also have like social media pages. So if you find that the membership might be a bit too much for your pocket, you can see if a local chapter has a Facebook page that you can follow. Sometimes they post different mixers and events that you can just go to just to kind of mingle and network with other people. For some societies, if you were to join, like for instance, there's the Society of Women Engineers. They have local conferences, and that will also give you a good place to explore for sure. And if you can go through like any LinkedIn or Facebook group and join, I'd recommend that. I know for engineering, there's also a group called Engineering Gals or ENGR Gals, and they have basically they ask people to just talk about who they are, and they share that, this is who I am, this is what I'm studying, talk to me if you want to know more. And so the resources are definitely out there on social media.
Great. Thank you. Wonderful suggestions. Emilie, did you have anything that you would like to share? Or?
Sure, just really quick. Sometimes it's interesting because the resources are, I'll just throw an example out, because you may be in a very specific situation where it's like, oh, you feel like you're the only person that fits that. But then, I'm in some groups that are specific to like women or like moms in tech, like even subgroups of people who may even relate even more to what you're going through, because maybe, you're a woman or you're a minority, or but then there's another, you know, layer, and it could be, you know, that you actually find people who are going through some things that are very, very similar, and just going, just sharing the experiences and sharing, you know, the way that, you know, how they've overcome some things, you know, even more relevant to your own situation.
Thank you. Thank you for all those wonderful resources. The next question that I have, that is again voted the most that's most popular, is: in what way do you think that being a woman in your field has been an asset? Whoever wants to go first.
I can go first. There are many ways in which we are assets to the team, but a big one is definitely our perseverance. Being a woman, being the only woman in a lab group, or even like one of the only 3 in a classroom, you definitely have to, and it's quite unfortunate, but it makes us a lot stronger. You have to definitely put yourself on a larger platform. So you have to carry more weight. You have to put more in your arguments to be heard. And what this helps us with is it helps us develop stronger leadership skills. It helps us also provide diversity in problem solving, and also in terms of just work ethic. It makes us stronger members of a team.
Awesome. That's great, Emilie.
I can add a little bit to what she said. For me personally, I think I don't want to talk all finances, but for me, the doors were just wide open because I was a woman. Economically, I mean, everything was paid, and I was going to take advantage of that. I was going to take advantage of every opportunity. So I loved that aspect of maximizing my gender to really get where I needed to get. The other one was similar to what she said about you're pioneering the field, and in that there are other young women that are kind of watching you. And for me personally, it's taught me 2 things. One is that I see my kids and my own husband sort of look at me as a role model, that I'm you know, I'm a scientist and that I'm working, and I you know, I see a young lady that's along with her mom. I mean, I feel like I'm providing that role model that perhaps I didn't have. And it also, I never forget the fact that for me, I had male mentors that believed in me. And I believe that I can pay back with things like being on this panel. So although I know I'm in the leading end, I also don't want to ever forget the people that helped me. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Bela. That's, yeah, leveraging also, right, your gender and making the most of it. It's awesome. Anyone else? Safiyyah? Elayne?
So I would piggyback off Bela. I completely agree that I've had both female and male mentors, and it is true. One of the reasons why I went into education actually was simply to give back. I had a wonderful chemistry high school teacher who was actually my propellant to actually being where I am. And you're correct in the sense that I have a daughter, and so when she does see that I am persevering and I'm not giving up, then it gives her that drive as well. It's also great when I walk in the classroom and students see me and they see, oh, I'm not the only one. So it's really lovely to see that. And yes, you are correct. Just paying it forward in sense. I really do appreciate that I'm able to do that with my voice, so to speak, and my presence. So yes, so that's what I would add.
Yeah, and I want to add that in the hospital industry, for years, was like a male, all the main positions were held by males, and now it's not the case. As a woman in STEM, I have to say that I have had the opportunities to grow professionally because somebody trusts in me, and even male mentors. I've had a lot of male mentors, but they believe in women. So for me, I always had the opportunities to grow. I have to say that my coworkers, my colleagues, my students always said to me that, hey, Elaine, you are my mentor. You motivated me to study. I want to be like you know, strong woman. And I am very happy because you are reaching your goals, and you motivated me to do the same. So I think this is very important, the role that we all have. We are example for the students and the women that are growing. So it's very important to keep that in mind. So you are a role, you are an example for somebody else. And for me, I feel grateful for have the opportunity to support and be an example for a lot of women, young women.
I just wanted to add something, and I think, yeah, these are powerful things. And just also sometimes it can be discouraging, but a lot of time we actually don't see the positive consequences. I want to say, I don't know, for lack of a better word. But I have a colleague who once told me that he was actually very nervous about having a woman in his team, and then he saw that you know, it was actually quite good, and he learned a lot. And yes, he had to change some things, but then later on, when he moved on to a different job, and you know, they were hiring somebody, and it was at the time it was a team that was 100% men, and they had a good woman candidate, and he had essentially one data point where they could use to essentially say, hey, no, it can work, you know. And so sometimes we don't see it trickles down, and I think it is really important to represent, and to just even just show up, and maybe to be this one data point, and open some minds, because we don't know where it's going to go next. So I just wanted to to just add that just being there, sometimes you don't know the power of what, you know, what that can have. So.
Thank you all. I think I'm going to ask the next question. What, I've been going back and forth between which questions I want to ask, but what would you say is your greatest accomplishment you've made thus far working in your field? And I'll just let you all decide who wants to start.
I'll go, I guess. I think just seeing my students progress and moving on, for me, that's like, so for example, I have students who I've had, I'll talk about the ones at Skyline College, but I have students who I've had in my first semester of Gen Chem, and now seeing them transferring. So I see that 360, they're transferring and moving on to their different programs. For me, I think that's very rewarding. It's very humbling. It's also humbling when they leave and I'm getting emails back to say, these are the things that I'm doing, and then what are some of the other, and just providing them with extra support, even though I'm not there anymore, but I'm still there thinking of them. So I think for me so far, it has been just seeing that evolution of how my students have just progressed from day one until where they are right now. And the same thing before I moved here, just to see my students, they start as a freshman, and then later on you see them and you're like, oh wow, look at you, you're all grown. And for me, I think that's very rewarding. Yeah.
I would have to agree. For me, watching students grow and become leaders has been the most fulfilling part of just what I do. And seeing a lot of the young women in our programs, you know, thrive and aspire. I'm still shedding tears over the fact that we didn't get to host EYH this year, but every year, like, it's been so empowering to see our students, you know, paying it back and paying it forward to the next generation. And I've had students here at Skyline and at SF State. I just found out. So I used to run I used to help with a summer program at State where they would have high school students come and do, you know, they would just do like an engineering camp. And one of them is now a PhD student in the East Bay for chemical engineering. And to think that, you know, these students, you know, they start page one, and, you know, here they are at the next chapter of their lives doing like such amazing things. It's definitely quite fulfilling.
And if I can add to that, another, because it's along the same lines, but it is quite amazing to see how far this can go, because you know, I had a student, one of my first, I think it was one of the first class I ever taught, and so she came into the class and she was so scared of physics, as you know, a lot of students come in when they first take you know, their a physics course, and then she contacted me. It was almost, you know, almost 10 years later, and she, to tell me, hey, I am finishing up medical school and I just wanted to reach out because you know, it took all these teachers along the way, and without this course I couldn't have done it. And I think about her so much right now, because that was about a year ago, and she was in medical school in New York, and I just can't even, you know, just, you know, the impact of what's going on in her, you know, doing her job right now. It's just, you know, very humbling, and also, you know, just you feel like you're, you know, doing something good, and in letting, you know, just kind of helping them get to where they want to be.
Yeah, thank you. My greatest accomplishment has probably been threefold. One was that I came from a very economically disadvantaged and a culturally sort of language barrier. There was no support. And so by accident, I stumbled across this idea of STEM and was mentored. So for me, it was a big deal to sort of get a doctorate degree and then, you know, go to Yale University and do more training. The other one is my ability to go from not only academia, but also industry, where it is really male dominated at the top in leadership. Kind of looks like the Senate almost. And so for me, being able to break some of that, and I'm at a place in my life, not only can I join women's organization and mentor the local high school students, but I have now had the confidence that I didn't for the first 20 years of my life to actually explore the idea of starting my own company one day, where I will be able to mix not only the science, but all the humanitarian missions that I have in mind into a company that I hope to start. Thanks.
Anybody else have anything you want to say about that one? Elayne?
Yeah, I want to say that as a Latino woman, I feel very grateful to for the opportunities that I have had and the support that I have from my employers and my coworkers. I was able to finish a bachelor degree and a master degree. Then I completed certificates in data analytics from Cornell University and clinical research from Stanford. And that opened a lot of doors for me. So I'm you know, I'm very proud of that. I think that I have more opportunities And my goal is to finish a doctoral degree soon. Also, I will say that I'm very proud of the respiratory care students, because right now with this COVID-19 pandemic, Carla and everyone, the students, they wanted to join the workforce against this terrible virus. And the second year students applied for the work permit, so they could join the workforce and help the hospitals' efforts to fight this pandemic. So, and we had a lot of young women in this group. So I'm very proud of them, because this pandemic is terrible. We don't know how this will end, but it's so difficult because a lot of uncertainty, and also the risk to get contagious with this virus and then spread to your family or your loved ones. So I'm very proud of the students, because they want to join the workforce regardless.
That's awesome. The next question that I have for you all, I'm bumping it up on the list because I have my daughter here, and so I wanted her to hear it. But what message would you give to children to inspire them to pursue STEM?
That's a really good one, actually. So I would say I have a daughter who's 7 years old, and one of the things that I would encourage is to be engaged in anything that's in school right now. For example, I know some schools, the science program is not really great, but I do like fun things at home with her just to inspire her to continuously believe in herself. And the other thing that I wanted to say is to be patient with yourself, in the sense that sometimes you might not get the math correct the first time, but keep at it, give yourself time, and ignore the noise. You will have people say, well, you're a girl, so you can't do this. Because my daughter, even though she's 7, she's heard that girls can't play soccer or girls can't do this. Ignore that, and remember that you can do anything that you set your mind to, regardless of whatever it is. And just encourage just to be like, be observant. So like you going out for walks, like we look at different things, like this is a snail, what is it doing? All of these things are science that's happening, especially now that we're at home. We've discovered so many things on our walks, just to see like little streams, insects, what are these, that kind of thing. So I would say constant encouragement, constant support. Don't if you didn't get the math problem correct the first time, don't give up. Keep at it and keep at it and keep at it. And that's what I had to do, and that's what I encourage my daughter to do as well, and even my students, just to keep at it.
Mm-hmm. I would like to add to that, just thinking about myself and like, okay, here I am now in my 30s doing this, but who was I when I was 5 years old? Who was I when I was 7? What did I enjoy doing? I love to get my hands dirty. I love playing with dirt. I would love, one of my favorite things to do was to help my dad in the garage and work on things. It was my escape from doing chores. I didn't like doing chores. And I realized, here I am in my career, but what really, like the roots of where my passion came from, it came from my childhood. So whatever it is that you enjoy doing, if you love to splash in the mud, if you like to, collect insects, keep doing it. People might tell you not to. They might scold you. My parents scolded me. I had teachers that told me that, I was going to, be nothing when I grew up, and I ignored them. So I know it's contradictory, like your mom's right here and she wants you to hear this advice, but lead your own path, basically. So if you enjoy doing something, keep doing it no matter what.
I'll add to it. I would say that the whole idea of STEM, it's not just, oh, I don't like math, or, oh, I don't like science. There's a lot more than that. It could be that you're interested in the moons and the stars, or you want to know why somebody has cancer, or why is it that we live long, or, you know, what is really math? Can I tie that into analytics and how we study, you know, how somebody gains weight or loses weight? However that science translates to you is the most important thing. The second thing is, by being a woman, I guarantee you already have an advantage. Biologically, you have this resiliency that nobody else has. So you're going to get these no's, not only in STEM, but whether it's your hair, your dress, your friends, your parents, whatever. Don't listen to that noise. Just pursue persistence. And the last thing I'll say is, besides trying to attend science camps and other things, there's always more than 3 or 4 ways to solve a problem. So follow your heart and your passion. Don't let no be an answer. Thanks.
Maybe I'll add on. I have 2 little boys, and they're 6 and 8. And so what I do a lot is actually, in a lot of things they do, I just point out, hey, that's physics, or hey, that's chemistry, and just to keep it kind of fun, to just also not associate, like, you know, because I see that in a lot of my students when they come into my class, oh, you know, it's either boring or scary, or, but as it turns out, you're doing, you know, science all the time. You don't notice, but anything that you know, you do, and I think when we're born, we're born scientists, kind of, and we experience different things. We experiment with everything, and, you know, in the way that we learn how to walk and speak, and all of those different things. And I think it's just a part of life, and so instead of just putting it in a box, just realizing that it's right there, and it's probably, you know, it may be something that you're already kind of passionate about without even realizing it. And you can see it in so many different things, and it's so rewarding. And I don't know, now it's fun because my kids are like, oh, hey, that's physics. And like, yes, I guess so, but it's everywhere. So and I speak for physics, you know, I'm a physicist, but that's true for so many different other fields. So
Will add that, Carla, for these young women and that are thinking about STEM, how satisfying is to change somebody else's life in a positive way, because it doesn't matter if you are an engineer or a science teacher or a clinician, you will impact somebody else's life. You will change somebody else's life. And for me, that's so amazing. You know, I feel, you know, positive every day, because I know that with my work, I'm helping somebody in the college, motivating students, in the hospital, saving a patient life. So for me, that is the reward, to change somebody's life in a positive way.
Thank you for that. Maryam.
Oh, I wanted to add one more thing. This is, and I'm sure like my fellow panelists will agree, STEM is not easy only because of what people tell you. So the subject matter might have a lot of work that requires studying. That's okay. But a lot of times we may have external noise, like Bela said earlier, and if people constantly tell you that, you know, that's not for you or don't do that, I would encourage you to do as best as you can to make your inner voice louder than theirs.
That's Great advice. Thank you. Thank you all. So the next question I have, it is, we have some moms on the panel, and it's more, it's a question about raising family. So what is it like to be a woman in STEM and raising a family?
Well, I can go there. I think that it's a balance and an honor. For one, the honor is that I make sure every opportunity that there is, I include my son to understand the challenges women go through so that he can be a better person at work or family and so forth, that he understands that there is this gender gap in certain areas. And I want him to be one of those mentors that helped me. The second one is that there are challenges with regards to, you feel like, for me personally, feel like I'm giving 100% in my work and volunteering and all this stuff, and yet I still have work at home. So the best advice that I got very late in my life was, if you can, it is worth sort of hiring the help that you need so that you can be a better employee and better him. So if you can afford that extra help to, you know, clean the house or get a babysitter or whatever it is so that you can be fuller, it might be a great investment to have. I haven't seen yet that it's equal at home with regards to doing some of the home involved work like laundry, cooking, you know, nannying and all those things. Thanks.
I'll add, I guess. Actually, so for me, it's having a super supportive spouse. Sorry. We both are chemists. So my husband is also a chemist in essence, yes. And so we have our one child, but I think when I think about it in terms of equity, it starts at home. And so then in itself, I'm teaching my daughter that this is what it should look like. It should be a distribution of things and not just one person. And so having that truly support system at home for me has been extremely helpful in balancing things out. And I think for students who are going through, might not be able to afford a babysitter, but I think relying on family is very important, right? Because you might have, your mom could help you to watch the kids while you're doing something else. And so because we're the only ones that's out here in the Bay Area, all of our families on the East Coast in New York City, we tend to make sure that we support our schedules is aligned so we don't travel if one is traveling. So that's kind of how I've been able to maneuver my career, is having a very supportive spouse, someone that's always uplifting. And so I think that's important, because when my daughter sees this, she understands that it is important for you to have a partner that is going to uplift you and want to make sure that you're also successful in your career. And so for the students who are asking this question in terms of like managing home with school, is to surround yourself with people who are going to help you, because you might not have the resources, but you will have friends, even if it's church friends, that will help to support you in terms of watching the kids for you while you do things. So it's having that good support system. And I say that for my friends who were in grad school and they had kids while they were in grad school, we helped babysit. So it's like you form that family, right? That will help to support you and encourage you as you go along in order for your career to be there, as well as you have some family life. Yeah. So that's.
I'll add on to that. I'm in a quite different situation, but I do have a different support system that I'm a single mom, so I don't have necessarily the support at home, but I do have you know, friends and yeah, it's definitely tricky, but also I think being a mom makes me stronger in many ways. I have no, I can't fail because so I have to just keep going no matter what. But I also want to address maybe another aspect, because I know that so I got I went to grad school, I got a PhD, and those are really, you know, you're in school for a really long time, and you know, you have that biological clock that's ticking and wondering, okay, when is a good time, and when am I going to do this? Is it possible? And I don't know if you have those questions, but I sure did. And I think the answer was that there's never a good time. At least for me, there's just no such thing as the right time to have babies and figure all that out. So I think that the reality is that it, you know, you make it happen, you make it work, no matter what it looks like. It can be scary because it looks very uncertain, because it's like, how can I handle all of this? And I can just tell you from my experience, you can, because I've been doing this alone for a while, and it seemed impossible. But you find ways. There's always a solution. I mean, not always, and I'm fortunate that you know, it somehow things seem to magically, you know, kind of work out. But it's also because, you know, you find ways to give yourself the tools, and it should never be a question of you know, do I choose a career or a family? And I know that for a while it was kind of, you know, it's like, am I getting this PhD and then just throwing all out because then I'm going to have a family and just not focus on my career? And I think, you know, it's those questions of, can we have it all? And I think, you know, you can make it work, and it looks different for everybody. And again, going back to finding mentors, I think in that aspect is also very important. And seeing, because I know when I went to grad school, I remember there was one in the entire physics department, there was one woman, and she didn't have kids, and clearly she had chosen her career. And to me that was a little scary, because it was, I wanted it all. I wanted the family, I wanted the career, and you know, and again, it looks different for everybody. And also, you know, there's all these pressures like, no, you don't have to have kids either, but if you do want to have that family and whatever that looks like, you know, you find ways to make it work. And so I'd say don't limit yourselves. So that would be my 2 cents.
I want to add something. I agree with my colleagues. At the time when I was doing my bachelor and my master, I was a single mom as well. But my parents supported me, and my family in general, and friends. So I had a very supporting system. That's the key. But also, you have to be very organized and make a balance of your, you know, the whole life as a mom, a student, you know, like make a balance and be organized. That for me, that's help. And I could finish because I was very organized and I had the support of my family. So.
I will just add one thing from an industry perspective, that the idea of especially women as they face some of the most wonders of their lives, not only in their career, but you know, getting married and having kids. Now, obviously, a lot of the companies offer the whole idea of reproductive, you know, frozen eggs as you continue your career, then say, hey, 5 years later, I want to do this. And so there are advantages, and technology has improved so much that was not available for somebody like me 20 years ago. Thanks.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question, and a good one that seems like a concluding question is, So knowing what you know now, if you could go back to being a freshman in college, what would you have done differently? Or any words of advice also, I would add in there.
I'll go ahead and start. Nothing. I have no regrets in whether I made mistakes or what major or what classes or how long it took. All of those have made me into a much more resilient individual, and I have just no regrets whatsoever. Everything just sort of happened for me, and it wasn't easy. Nothing was given, but I so much more appreciate the hard work that it took me. And that allows me to face almost any challenge, including the COVID-19 crisis. Thanks.
I agree. I honestly wouldn't change anything at all, even though I spent like a few years wandering between majors and dropping out of classes. What I realize now, just looking at who I am now, what's around me now, I'm very thankful. And also, just who I am personally, I believe that I'm really strong. And I believe that all of my ups and downs brought me to that point. So sure, there were times where I felt like maybe my life was a stagnant line, no progress, and maybe things were really low. Maybe I had my elevations, but overall, all of those experiences, they were all bricks that basically built my foundation and helped define me to be who I am now. So, could I change things if I went back in time? Sure, but would I want to? Absolutely not.
Yeah, I will say that I love my career. It's a very difficult to work with patients and in the hospital, but I love that. Also, I'm loving what I'm doing now, helping the students and making an impact in their life. What I will do differently is that I will request advice, counseling, because I remember that nobody told me anything, like, and I have learned because I made mistakes, and that will save me money and time. I will say right now, study is so expensive. So I will recommend all the students to request help, to ask for counseling, go to financial aid, talk to their instructors, and for us to be a facilitator. So that will make their life easier, because study in these times is not easy. So my suggestion will be that. So request help.
Well, I concur with Elaine on that as well. I wouldn't really change anything. I think the one thing would be, which is one thing that I advise my student now of, is different scholarships and fellowships that's available. That's pretty much it, because it is expensive in itself to get an undergraduate degree. And so my last words would be to seek out the necessary resources to find the different scholarships that's out there. There's a lot of money out there, and a lot of the times we don't know that, and especially when you're a first generation student as well, you really don't know what's out there. And so it's good to start asking your counselors, ask the faculty member that's in the field of interest that you want to go into, and they will be able to provide you with the different scholarships and fellowships for both summer as well as when you transfer. So that would be the one, my one advice is talk to folks so that you could find money to pay for your education, because it's expensive. And so, yeah, that would be it.
And I'll add on to that, because I agree. I think I wouldn't really necessarily change anything. Maybe just be a little bit more daring and in not being so afraid of asking for help. And that could be asking for applying for scholarships, but also going through a hard time, and that can be tough, because when you're in an environment where you're kind of already standing out, it can be difficult to find allies, but they are there. And so it's kind of easier to just kind of, you know, pull away and say, all right, I'm not gonna, but there's help everywhere, and to not be afraid to ask, and even, you know, to put yourself out there, and even though it can be scary, but even, you know, in applying for scholarships, but even applying for jobs, there's so many times where it's like, oh no, I don't think I qualify, but that's one thing that I've noticed, in, you know, it's if you look at gender specifically, that a lot more men will apply for jobs where they won't necessarily, you know, have those same kind of uncertainties about, do I qualify or not, because, you know, just go for it and try. And I think you know, sometimes you don't realize, but you're exactly what somebody's looking for, and so it's hard to see it for yourself. So so maybe, you know, try to, if you can, put yourself out there, and it can, you know, it can be really rewarding. So, and even though it's very scary.
Take more risks and be kind to yourself.
Anybody else have anything? We're just at time now, but I just wanted to thank all of the panelists for your sharing vulnerable and honest things with everyone. I think that that this is a lot of really solid advice for all of our female students, and thank you all for taking the time. Yeah, thank you for being here to facilitate, and thanks all of you in attendance. And anybody else have anything that you want to add? I know Brian will send out information for the next upcoming one. But I guess, can we join in a virtual round of applause for everyone? Okay, and these were really great questions. I'm sad that we didn't get to all of the questions in the list, because there were some really good ones in there, but some of them got folded into it. So thank you all also who submitted questions. And
I'm just going to add something really quick, because I think we're trying to make this actually at least a yearly event, and probably every, like, have something like this happening every semester. So so we can keep those questions, or if your question was not answered, you know, keep that in mind, and for the next one in fall. And if you have suggestions, always share with us.
I would also say that if you posed a question that didn't get answered, that I bet any of the panelists would be willing to answer it if you reached out to them individually. So, okay, well, thank you all. It was nice seeing everyone here today.
Thank you.
Thank you all for participating.
Thank you. This was really great.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.